Hi guys, nice to meet all of you. This is a video that has been on my mind for a while, so I wanted to make it. But before we get to that, I just want to point out that I'm not really a YouTuber and I don't really make videos, so please forgive the lack of polish in this video. With that said, hi, I'm Golden Sand 15. The Nintendo Switch 2 is an amazing console, and it's just about here. It releases on June 5th, which at the time that I'm writing this is just 2 weeks away. I have no idea when this video is going to come out, so it's possible that the console is already here. If it is, then I hope you all are enjoying it. But to celebrate the release of the new console, I thought I'd do something special. You see, I don't really like new games as much as old games. I'm much more of a retro gamer these days for various reasons. The short version is I'd rather relive my childhood with games from the 80s and 90s than playing the games that are coming out now. Luckily, the Switch has me covered with a service called Nintendo Classics. So let me just recap what Nintendo Classics is for those of you who may be unfamiliar. Hey, for all I know, maybe you're watching this in the distant future, long after the service has been discontinued. This is the Nintendo DS. It was released in 2004. It was the first time Nintendo attempted a console capable of connecting to the internet using a service called Nintendo Wi Fi Connection. The Wii also used the same service, though the service no longer exists. After that came the Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, which used a new service called Nintendo Network. Similarly, this one also no longer exists. Which brings us to 2017 and the release of this thing, the Nintendo Switch. It launched in March of 2017, and at the time, it used the Nintendo Network. But this wouldn't last. In September 2018, Nintendo replaced this service with Nintendo Switch Online, their current online game service. Unlike their prior two services, which were free, Nintendo Switch Online is a paid service costing either $20 per year for a regular subscription or $50 per year for a premium subscription. So you could make the argument that September 2018, the month that Nintendo began charging people to play games online, was a really bad month. Obviously, no one wants to pay for something that was once free, so Nintendo sweetened the deal by offering a service in exchange for your money. That service is Nintendo Classics. You get access to these consoles, depending on your membership tier, and can play various old school games from those consoles. New games are added pretty much on a monthly basis. There will occasionally be a month that has 2 or 3 updates, and even more rarely, one that has no updates, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to look at the months as a whole, as though we got the new games for this month all at once. And months without an update are just going to be treated as though the month's update simply provided nothing. Now, not all updates are equal. Sometimes we get really good games and sometimes we get really bad games. So I figured, why not go through all the months and rank them all? After all, that sounds like the perfect send off to the Nintendo Switch before the Nintendo Switch 2 gets here and steals all of its thunder. So this is every month of Nintendo Classics ranked. Now, before we get started, I have a bit of housekeeping to address. First of all, exactly which games you get each month will vary depending on where you live. There's two lists of games available, the Japanese list and the American list. Those are the official names, by the way. If you're from Europe, Australia, Korea, or anywhere else, don't hate me for calling them that. That's just what they're called. Everywhere in the world gets one of these two lists. Obviously, the country of Japan gets the Japanese list, and the country of the United States gets the American list. But what about the rest of the countries? Well, it's actually surprisingly simple. All other countries get the American list. I haven't done too much research, but from what I can tell, the only place other than Japan that uses the Japanese list is Hong Kong, which may not even be a real country, depending on who you ask. And I'm not going to say any more than that because I don't feel like getting canceled today. And it doesn't really matter much, anyways, because accessing the other list is incredibly easy to do. Let's say you have a Switch that by default receives the American list. All you need to do to access the Japanese list is download the Japanese version of the Nintendo Classics app. The Switch isn't region locked, so you can download it without any issues. All you need to do is access the Japanese version of the eShop. And this can be done by creating a profile on your Switch that claims to live in Japan. The only thing that you'll need in order to create a new profile is a separate email address, but that's pretty trivial to create. Although I should preface this with a warning that if you're going to do this yourself, As soon as you do, then your Switch will start receiving Japanese news articles clogging up your news feed, and there's no way to turn it off. So, whether or not it's worth it is up to you. One thing that you might be wary of is the fact that these games will have Japanese text in them, and you may not be fluent in Japanese. If that describes you, then boy, do I have a solution for you. It's called Learning Japanese. You can just go on the internet, type in how to learn Japanese, and go find hundreds of free resources to teach you. So there's really no excuse for not learning the skills that you want to learn. It's 2025, the internet exists, use it. Or if you're too lazy to do that, then just go download Google Lens. It literally lets you take a picture of any Japanese text and it will auto translate for you. That also works. Yeah, so because of this, I'm actually going to be taking a combined approach and looking at the games given to both lists together, and not just solely focusing on one or the other. If a game is available on one list, then it's as good as being available on both. The next thing I want to address about this video is copyright law. Yeah, so showing gameplay footage is actually illegal. I mean, it doesn't stop anyone. Everyone puts their video game footage on YouTube. But technically speaking, this is illegal. But seeing as how I want to obey the law, I'm only going to be showing the box art for each game I talk about, which is product packaging displayed with the intent of branding. Me showing the box art is purely for identification and commentary and does not compete with the purpose of the original artwork. This makes it fair use, so please don't sue me. With that said, the games that I will be talking about are owned by these companies. If you want to play any of these games, please go support the official releases. Lastly, know that this list is going to be heavily influenced by my own personal opinion. I do have a few hot takes that may make you angry. If this happens, then instead of leaving an angry comment letting me know that I'm wrong, I encourage you instead to make your own video and get more voices in on the topic. And with that preamble out of the way, let's jump right into it. All the way at the bottom of the list, ranked at number 81, we have March 2025. So this month gave us a handful of SNES games, including Nobunaga's Ambition and New Horizons, which is pretty good. On top of that, we also got some pretty good puzzle games for the Game Boy. All of this looks great, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is that they removed a game from the service this month. Super Soccer on SNES. It was playable on Nintendo Classics prior to this, and it isn't anymore. This is the one and only time in Nintendo Classics history that they removed a game from the service. Now, yes, the game in question, Super Soccer, is a game that very few people actually care about at all. To be honest, what we gained more than makes up for what we lost. This month does have an overall net positive. But the problem here is the precedent that this sets. Now that it's possible for games to be removed from the service, there is now a feeling of fear that wasn't there before. You can now lose your games. That's scary. Yeah, this was a game no one cared about, but who's to say the next one won't be? This month caused so much turmoil with Nintendo Classics because it is the one time that they made us worry that we could lose our games. At least the months that did nothing didn't go that far with it. But I am confident in saying that this decision was the worst decision ever made in the management of the Nintendo Classic service. And for that reason, this gets to drop right off of F tier and go down into G tier. Congratulations to March 2025 for breaking my ranking system. Now it's time for the F tier months. This is going to be a huge step up, I'm sure. Numbers 66 through 80 are all the months that gave us nothing whatsoever. These are October 2019, November 2019, January 2020, March 2020, June 2020, August 2020, October 2020, November 2020, January 2021, March 2021, April 2021, June 2021, August 2021, September 2021, and November 2021. Simply put, if you don't give us any games, then why am I paying for your service? To their credit, though, Nintendo seems to have realized this, and they haven't missed a month since November 2021, which is a huge plus. Being consistent for more than 3 years makes me extremely confident that we'll probably never miss a month again. But the fact that these 15 months exist is definitely a blight on the service's early history. I can't rank them above F tier. Wait, what's that? You want me to actually rank them relative to each other? How would I even do that? They all gave us nothing. Well, you might expect me to rank the earlier months lower. After all, when they decided not to give us an update for November 2021, that wasn't as big of a deal compared to October 2019, because by the time November 2021 came around, there were loads of games on Nintendo Classics you could play to hold yourself over in the meantime while you wait a month for the next update. However, I'm going to take the opposite opinion and say that the later months are worse. First of all, you had to wait longer to get to those months. Secondly, Nintendo should have learned that offering a service like this means you shouldn't skip months. Them not knowing that at the beginning is more forgivable because it's their first time doing something like this, so they're bound to make a few mistakes while they're still finding their footing. But the further along we go, the less excusable this becomes. This same logic is why I'm confident when I say we'll probably never get another missed month again. So yeah, that's my ranking for the F tier months. Now we can move on to the D tier months. Number 65, April 2020. I'm going to be honest, I considered giving this month F tier, but frankly, they gave us something. Is it something worthwhile? No, not at all, but at least it's there. Well, if you're using the Japanese list. The American list didn't get updated at all this month. Great start already. The thing is, the Japanese list didn't get any new games either, so what's going on? Well, even though the Japanese list didn't get any new games, they did get 2 SP updates for your older games. Yeah, so if you don't know, Nintendo Classics occasionally offers an SP version of a game. This is a version of the game that comes with save data already on it, usually 100% completion, so that you can play it without having to start at the beginning. In this particular case, both save files came from the game Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. Now, don't get me wrong, Fire Emblem is a great game series, and it's great to have the original installment available to play on Nintendo Classics. But the thing is, I feel like having pre-installed save data completely defeats the point. You want to be able to play the game yourself from start to finish, so I've never been a fan of these SP save files. And seeing as how that's the entirety of what we got this month was bound to place low. Number 64, September 2022. Okay, folks, I'm going to be real with you. There's strong personal bias here. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I grew up with all the Nintendo consoles, which means that all of them have deep nostalgia for me. But that does not apply to the Sega Genesis. So I just can't really get into Genesis games. Sorry. And this month gave us 3 Genesis games and nothing else. Elysia Dragoon, Beyond Oasis, and Earthworm Jim. Are these bad games? No, not really, but they're just bad for me personally. And it's my list, so deal with it. Number 63, December 2022. More of the same. Alien Storm, Columns, Golden Axe 2, and Virtua Fighter 2. I mean, at least Virtua Fighter 2 is decent, and there's 4 games instead of 3, but that's really all I have to say here. I'll have a lot more to talk about when we get to the months with actual content on consoles I care about. Number 62, August 2019. Oh hey, a month with actual Nintendo hardware getting updates. Yeah, no offense to the Genesis, but I'm a Nintendo fanboy through and through. Japan got Downtown Neketsu March Super Awesome Field Day, while America got Vice Project Doom. Both regions got Gradius SP and Kung Fu Heroes. So yeah, this is kind of the bottom of the barrel for NES games. I mean, Gradius is great, but this version is an SP save file, so I don't really like it very much. The others are bad games. Downtown Neketsu March Super Awesome Field Day is the best of the 3, and even that one isn't much to write home about. Number 61, June 2019. So yeah, if you couldn't tell by now, the months that give us SP games are going to be ranked low, and this month gave us Twinbee SP. Other games we got include City Connection, Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, and Volleyball. That's a bit of a step up. I mean that in the sense that these are types of games that you maybe will spend half an hour with once instead of just 10 minutes. It's clear that these aren't really the heavy hitters, though. When you think of a collection of NES games, these aren't the first ones to come to mind. Number 60, February 2020. So this month, the Japanese list got Crystalis, The Mystery of Atlantis, and Breath of Fire 2. The American list got Eliminator Boat Duel, Shadow of the Ninja, and Smash Tennis. And both lists got Poppin' Twinbee. At first glance, this seems great. It's a huge quantity. But the thing is, most of these games were already available on Nintendo Classics at the time. They were just on the list of the opposite region and are only now crossing over. That is exceptionally lazy and lands this month firmly into the D tier crowd. Number 59, October 2018. Now, yes, this is the month that we got the original The Legend of Zelda, but in the form of an SP save file that starts you out with everything and deprives the game of any challenge whatsoever. And besides that, what do we have? NES Open Tournament Golf, Solomon's Key, and Super Dodgeball. This is definitely a step up from what we've seen on the tier list up until now, but still no real highlights. Number 58, July 2019. Mighty Bomb Jack got an SP save file that I don't care about, and then in terms of new games, we've finally got some games that mainstream gamers may have actually heard of before. Donkey Kong 3 and Wrecking Crew. The thing is, though, the reason why these games are notable is just because of the fact that they're part of the Donkey Kong series and the Mario series, respectively. If you actually look at the gameplay, it's very repetitive and you'll get bored with these games after about 20 minutes each. Still, it's better than what I've had to talk about up until this point in the video. Number 57, July 2021. Super Mario Bros. 3 gets an SP save file that I don't like. Bomboozle comes to both lists. And then the American list gets Claymates and Jelly Boy, while the Japanese list gets Shin Megami Tensei If and Tough Enough. Are you detecting a pattern with these D tier months? They're all full of crap that you'll never voluntarily go back to play again. You'll just play it once, check out what it's about, and then never touch it again. Yep, and we've got a lot more of these D tier months to go. Buckle up. Number 56, February 2021. Alright, what games do we have this time? Fire and Ice, Doomsday Warrior, only on the American list, Mario Super Picross, only on the Japanese list, Prehistoric Man, only on the American list, Psycho Dream, and Shin Megami Tensei 2, only on the Japanese list. Yep, that sure is a lot more games that I'll never play, though to be fair, we are at least moving in a positive direction. Like, I'm gonna take a bit longer before I put these down. That counts for something, right? God, I can't wait for the C tiers. Number 55, August 2022, Wave Race 64. It's actually decent. I might play this 2 or 3 times before giving up on it instead of just once. Yeah, that's all I've got. They couldn't even give us more than one game this month. Number 54, September 2024. This month gave us a bunch of SNES games. Both lists got Big Ren and Cosmo Gang the Puzzle, while the American list additionally got Battletoads Double Dragon and Kunio-kun no Dodgeball Daio Zenin Shugo. The Japanese list got Angelique instead. Of this selection, Angelique is definitely the best, but it's still not a particularly good game. I'm not going out my way to play it, just like most of the D-tier games. Are we done with the D-tier months yet? No? Geez, how many dud months are there? Number 53, May 2020. Both regions get Rygar. Japan gets Journey to Silius and Super Punch-Out! America gets Operation Logic Bomb and Wild Guns. If this month were to stop here, it would be much lower on the tier list. But there is one more game, Panel de Pon. This is our first game that we're going to be talking about that is actually worth playing for a considerable length of time. Like, it's a fun puzzle game. I will go back and play it from time to time. If this month had just one more game that was on this level, it would honestly pull it up to C tier. But as is, Panel de Pon alone cannot really carry a month by itself. But hey, at least we're starting to get out of the dumps. Number 52, October 2022. Pilotwings 64 is a game that I don't really care too much about. It has its fans, but I am not among them. I don't think it's bad, but it's not one of the true greats, you know? This month, just like the last one, is so close to C tier, but it ultimately misses the mark. It just needs a bit more to give it an extra push. Number 51, February 2024. Oh boy, I'm going to get so much hate for this. Please keep in mind that this list is just my opinion before you leave your angry comments. So let's start by looking at the American list for this month. RC Pro-Am, Snake Rattle and Roll, Battletoads and Battlemaniacs, Killer Instinct, and Blast Corps. Yeah, I don't think anyone is going to argue that this is a D tier month. This selection of games is just a bunch of stuff that you'll never play. It is a lot of it, so it's at least a bang quantity wise, but quality leaves a lot to be desired. But then we look at the Japanese list. They only got one game, but that game was Mother 3. Oh boy. At the risk of pissing off everyone on the internet, I just don't see what people like about the Mother trilogy, sorry. And it's so frustrating because everyone always talks about how great these games are, and I've tried to get into it. I really, really have. I keep hoping that each playthrough will make me see what everyone else sees in these games. But to me, this just feels like a mediocre series of RPGs, and I don't see what makes them special. I've not been able to get into them. It's a real shame, but it is what it is, and it means that this month doesn't offer anything for me personally. Number 50, April 2024. Both lists got Super R-Type and Wrecking Crew 98. The Japanese list got Battletoads and Battlemaniacs, Marvelous Mohi Totsu no Takarajima, and Blast Corps. The American list got Amazing Hebereke, Extreme G, and Iggy's Wreckin' Balls. This is one of the worst D tier months, yet here it is near the top of D tier, above Mother 3 even. So why is that? Well, I hate to say it, but it's Iggy's Wreckin' Balls. I had never even heard of this game before, so it was a shock to me when it came to Nintendo Classics, but it was a surprise hit for me. Not something that I'm going to go back to very often, but I'll pick it up every now and then. Still not good enough to get it out of D tier, though. Number 49, May 2025. Well, let's start with the Japanese list this time. They got Ridge Racer 64, which is a game that was already on the American list, so they effectively got nothing. That's pretty bad. As for the American list, they got Killer Instinct Gold. Yeah, okay, much like the other months towards the top of D tier, this is a game that is very much beloved, but I personally was never a fan, so it's hard for me to get into it or to rank this highly. Okay, so after I wrote this section, Nintendo went and added 4 new Game Boy games to the service as well. While these are nice, I'm going to say that it doesn't change the ranking at all. Kirby Star Stacker is great, but we already have the SNES version on Nintendo Classics, which is superior. Don't worry though, I'm sure the C tier months are right around the corner, right? Right? Number 48, August 2024. This gives us Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team. And that's it, no other games. So this is actually a good game, a really good game. So why do I have it ranked so low? Well, 2 reasons. First of all, if you want to play this on the Switch, it was already available in the form of a remake. Now, yes, the Nintendo Classic service is free with a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online, which you're probably going to be subscribed to anyways, so this is the cheaper option. But that also means that if you bought the remake, then this feels like a slap in the face to you, because you could have just waited to get the game on Nintendo Classics anyways. The other thing holding this back is, this is only half of the game. As I'm sure you can guess by the name Red Rescue Team, there also exists a Blue Rescue Team, which connects to this game and lets you combine the two in order to get a complete Pokédex. Having just Red without Blue feels wrong. Now yes, the Blue version of the game is on the DS instead of the Game Boy Advance, which is a console that, for now at least, is unavailable on Nintendo Classics. Hopefully someday in the future it'll be there. But for now, if all you have is the red version of the game, you're not getting the full experience. I feel like Nintendo should have held off on this until the time came when they were ready to put DS games on Nintendo Classics, and then given us both versions at once. And before anyone comments, yes, I am aware that you can use Wonder Mail codes to cheat the system and get a complete Pokédex with only one version of the game, but come on, it's pretty obvious that you're not supposed to be doing that, and you're meant to play both versions of the game. And now we can finally move on to the C tier games. Number 47, May 2019. Star Soldier got an SP game that I don't care about. And then you get Cuckoo Land, though which version of it you get depends on which lists you follow. You also get Donkey Kong Jr. and Versus Excitebike. So here's the thing about these games. They're classics, they're enjoyable, and there's a fair number of them. Because of all of that, I can't really put them in D tier like I can with the shovelware games. But if you actually sit down and play them for any reasonable amount of time, you quickly realize that there's not a lot of content here. Even if you've never played Donkey Kong Jr. before in your life, it'll only take you about 15 minutes to beat the game. That's just because games back then didn't really have a lot on them. Still, they are iconic classics for a reason, and a service called Nintendo Classics would be lacking if it didn't have these games. So, for that reason, this month gets to sneak its way into C tier. Number 46, April 2022. This month mainly focuses on the Genesis, so there's not much for me. We got Shining Force 2, Sonic Spinball, and Space Harrier 2. None of these are games that I have any attachment to whatsoever. That said, they did throw a small bone to us Nintendo fanboys by giving us Mario Golf on the Nintendo 64. Golf is like the worst of the Mario sports, but hey, it's something, I suppose. It is still a Mario game, which means it has the level of polish that most of the D tier games lack. Number 45, December 2018. Wario's Woods is notable for being the last NES game ever released, well into the lifespan of the SNES, and honestly nearly approaching the Nintendo 64. But that doesn't necessarily make it good. To be honest, I was never a fan. What else do we have? Well, Dr. Mario and Metroid each got SP save files, which I also don't care about. And then there's the Adventures of Go-Go games, which are regional exclusive for some reason. They're fine, but nothing to write home about. However, we also got Ninja Gaiden. Well, this isn't my favorite game by any means. It is good enough to the point where it keeps this month out of D tier at the very least. Number 44, January 2025. Fatal Fury 2, Super Ninja Boy, and Tsute Hakun on the SNES. And then Nintendo 64 gets Ridge Racer 64 in America, and Turok Dinosaur Hunter and its sequel in Japan. Well, if you're an adult. Yeah, that's another thing. Some games are locked behind an age restriction wall, not that that stops anyone. This month isn't bad, but it isn't great either, so it ends up averaging to be right around the middle. Number 43, December 2023. Wait, 2023? That's a year that happened? Yeah, this is the first month of 2023 on my ranking. 2023 was such a strong year that its worst month is all the way up in C tier. 1080 Degree Snowboarding, Harvest Moon 64, and Jet Force Gemini, with the last of these being exclusive to the American list. These games aren't really my cup of tea personally. I don't think I'd ever choose to play them over other options, but if you made me play them anyways, I would have a good time with it. All three of these are genuinely good games. Yeah, better games exist, but these are quite strong contenders in their own right. And if this is how good the worst month of 2023 is, just imagine the rest of it. Or, you don't have to imagine it. You can just watch the rest of the video. That also works. You should probably do that. Number 42, May 2022. May of 2022 gives us a bunch of games that you probably don't care about, as well as Kirby 64. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of the Kirby series, but if I took a good, honest look at each game in the series, I think it's clear that Kirby 64 is one of the weaker entries. Still, we're definitely on the way up. It only gets better from here. Number 41, June 2023. So June 2023 is one of the bigger months as far as quantity is concerned. First up, on NES we got Mystery Tower. That honestly could have been better. It's not the best, let's be frank. On SNES we got Harvest Moon in America and Super Baseball Simulator 1000 in Japan. These are solid enough games, but each was available in the opposite region already, so this wasn't anything special. There's also a handful of Genesis games, but as I already stated, I don't really care too much about that. On Game Boy Advance, we got two Fire Emblem games, which are pretty alright. And on Game Boy, we got Blaster Master Enemy Below, which is just a worse version of the NES game Blaster Master, which we already had on Nintendo Classics at this point. So overall, this month is high in the quantity department, but low in the quality department. That is, until we look at the last game for this month that I have yet to mention, Kirby Tilt and Tumble. So let's talk about this game. The original game was on Game Boy Color, and it was absolutely terrible. Why? because it uses motion controls. The cartridge had a tilt sensor in it that could sense when you were tilting your Game Boy Color. Allegedly. Personally, I always found it a little wonky and hard to work with. However, none of that matters because even if the game did work perfectly, you can't actually play this on Game Boy Color. Why? Because the Game Boy Color screen is not backlit. I mean, okay, my personal Game Boy Color does have a backlit screen, but that's due to using modern day hardware modding. It certainly didn't have a backlit screen back when it was brand new. So that means in order to play it, you basically have to be under a light source at all times in order to see your screen. For a normal Game Boy Color game, that's not a big deal. But if the game expects you to be tilting your Game Boy Color in every possible direction, then it is a big deal because it means that you need to, at some point, tilt away from the light source and then be unable to see what you were doing. It also means that if you have trouble seeing the screen, you can't easily adjust your viewing angle without accidentally giving a motion input that you didn't want. This is an utterly terrible control scheme, and the design should have never been deemed acceptable to release. The only way you could possibly enjoy this is if you somehow got a light source in every direction of you for a full 360 degrees, making a sphere of light. Good luck fitting all of that into your electrical outlets without causing a fire hazard. However, all of that was for the original game on the Game Boy Color. Now, with Nintendo Classics, you can play this game on the Nintendo Switch. The Switch not only has a backlit screen, but it also has a dang gyroscope, which is practically mandatory if you want your game to use motion controls. With this, Kirby Tilt and Tumble is actually fully playable for the first time ever. This isn't the case of them re-releasing an old game onto modern hardware like the rest of Nintendo Classics. To me, this is a new game. So then, with all of that praise, why is this month still in C tier? Because even though this is a new game, it's not a very good game. Like, the level design isn't anything special. It's neat that the game is finally playable at all, but it really isn't that strong of a game at the end of the day. Number 40, November 2024. Hey, we get more Genesis games. That's great for people who are not me, but what do I get if I'm a Nintendo simp? The first two Donkey Kong Land games. Oh boy, let's talk about these. So, nowadays, you don't really have to make any compromises between portable gaming and console gaming, especially with the Nintendo Switch. Any game that you can play on the TV, you can now take with you on the go. It's a really nice system. But things weren't always this way. Back in the day, there were a lot of compromises made, and so a lot of the big name NES and SNES games got downgraded versions put onto the Game Boy. The original Game Boy wasn't exactly a supercomputer by any means, but that was never the point. The point was portability. And that was kind of the main selling point of the Donkey Kong Land games. Each of them is a watered down version of the corresponding Donkey Kong Country game. I don't think that anyone would choose to play a Donkey Kong Land game if the Donkey Kong Country game was an equally accessible option. And, well, with the Nintendo Switch, it is an equally accessible option. The Donkey Kong Country games are available on Nintendo Classics just as well, so what's even the point? Now, granted, of the games that got watered down Game Boy ports, the Donkey Kong games are probably among the better ones, but that's still not enough to get this month out of C tier if that's all it's offering. Number 39, July 2022. Let's be real, this month is only as high as it is because it includes the two custom Robo games on Nintendo 64. Take away that, and this drops to the bottom of D tier. But how can that be? After all, this month has a Pokemon game, doesn't it? Yeah, okay, let's talk about Pokemon Puzzle League. It is, in my opinion, the absolute worst Pokemon game besides the ones that use microtransactions. I know that some of you are going to point to Pokemon Dash, but no, in my honest opinion, Pokemon Puzzle League is worse. In fact, if I were to rank every single individual game on Nintendo Classics, this would honestly be a contender for the absolute worst one of all. I don't know that it would take the title, but it would certainly be in the running at the very least. I don't even want to explain why, because I don't want to relive the experience of playing this game. If you've played it for even just half an hour, you know. It's that bad. The rest of the games don't really have anything noteworthy for me to say about them. Number 38, November 2023. This didn't give anything to the American list, but the Japanese list got two games, though one of them is a game that was already on the American list. GoldenEye 007 and Jet Force Gemini are great, but they really can't stand on their own. I need something else here too, and this month just didn't provide anything else. Number 37, May 2024. On the American list, we have Alleyway, Baseball, and Super Mario Land. These games are all games that were available on the original Game Boy at launch back in the day. Waiting all the way until May 2024 to get them is a little odd, and I'll be honest, it's not worth it. These games may entertain you for a little while, but this is a low C tier or a high D tier. So why is it towards the top of C tier? Well, that's because of the Japanese list. It got the same games as the American list, but with the addition of Keiru no Tame ni Kane wa Naru. This game is absolutely incredible. No joke, if you haven't played it before and you're able to read Japanese, go play it. It's really something special. I think the game is actually highly underrated because I never see people talking about it. Whenever I mention it to people, no one seems to have heard of it. Probably because it was only ever available in Japanese, but still. Also, this doesn't affect my ranking at all, but when else am I going to get a chance to tell this story? So, I kid you not. But I mentioned this game to a friend of mine and told him how underrated it was and how I wish more people had heard of it. And then literally 45 minutes later, Nintendo announced that it was coming to Nintendo Classics. Like, what? Excuse me? Is Nintendo secretly spying on me? How did they know that I was just talking about this game? It was genuinely one of the freakiest things that has ever happened to me. Anyways, let's get back to the ranking. Number 36, March 2024. I have literally nothing to say here. These sure are video games, kinda middle of the road, honestly. Let's move on. Number 35, September 2023. Yeah, so this is also kind of a bit of a dud. On the Japanese list, the only game is Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Honestly, it's not bad. I like that it can now be played in multiplayer with online play. That's really nice. The game definitely got a huge upgrade over its original release just for having online support now. It's alright, but nothing special. The American list is a bit better. In addition to Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, they also got a whole bunch of other games that were previously on the Japanese list. And also they got Quest for Camelot, which is a strange choice. That game is like the definition of shovelware, but I guess it doesn't hurt to have it here. Just a bit odd. Number 34, April 2025. Alright, so April 2025 gives us mostly Genesis games, which you already know how I feel about. The one Nintendo game here is Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones. It's not a bad game in the Fire Emblem series, but not really a great one either. Still, it came close to B tier. Speaking of which, it's time for the B tier months now. Number 33, December 2024. So this month gives us the third Donkey Kong Land game, along with two different versions of Tetris. Here's the thing though, there's a game called Tetris 99 available on Switch already, which is just a modern version of Tetris, except that you can play online with 99 players. So if you want to play Tetris, you can just play that. And the thing is, this game is actually available for free if you have a Nintendo Switch Online account, which means that anyone who has access to Nintendo Classics can just play Tetris anyways. With that said though, the NES version of Tetris specifically is so iconic that it just feels right to have it here. And for that reason alone, it gets to sneak its way into B tier. Number 32, November 2018. In terms of new games, we got Metroid, Mighty Bomb Jack, and Twinbee. We also got SP save game files for Gradius and NES Open Tournament Golf, though the latter is exclusive to the Japanese list for some reason. I don't get why, because it's just a save file, but never mind that. And yeah, as you can imagine, the only reason this month is this high is because of Metroid. Metroid is just one of the all-time classics in gaming. Number 31, January 2024. Oh boy, I have been waiting to talk about this month. In this month, we got the two Golden Sun games on Game Boy Advance. When I was a kid, I loved these games. Then I played them as an adult and realized just how many problems they have. There's so many strategies you can employ that just break the game wide open. The storyline makes no sense when you give it a second thought with an adult's mindset. There's way too much time spent on cutscenes. The game railroads you extremely heavily, and I could keep going. Sorry to ruin your childhood here, but these games aren't as good as you remember. And yet, I love them. Why is that? Well, funnily enough, I think that these games are so disastrously bad that I now genuinely enjoy them in an ironic way. So, now that I've made fun of your childhood, let me offer a sincere compliment about these games. The graphics are amazing. Probably the best in the entire Game Boy Advance library. That's where these games truly shine. In a good way. Number 30, May 2021. So, in terms of new games, both lists got Ninja Jajamaru-kun, Joe and Mac, and Magical Drop 2. But then America got Spanky's Quest and Super Baseball Simulator 1000, while Japan instead got Doomsday Warrior and Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. That's honestly the best Fire Emblem game. You could argue that Path of Radiance is better, but either way, this is at least in the top 2. But if that was all this month had to offer, I wouldn't have it this high up. What really pushes this month up for me is the SP save file of Super Mario Kart. Okay, let me explain. I probably sound like a massive hypocrite right now. I hate SP save files because they deprive the game of any challenge. You just skip right to the end. For most games, this is a terrible feature to have, in my opinion. But for multiplayer games like Mario Kart, it's actually the opposite. Here, you want to skip to the end and unlock everything so that you can jump straight into the competitive multiplayer aspect of the game. So for that reason, I actually like this save file, and therefore, this month shoots all the way up to B tier. Number 29, July 2023. This month gave us the Zelda Oracle games. These are probably the most underrated Zelda games. They're pretty good. But that's literally all this month gave us, not even a throwaway game. So if you don't like Zelda, too bad. Luckily, most people like Zelda. The series is pretty popular. Number 28, December 2020. This has a bunch of games that aren't worth giving the time of day to, as well as Donkey Kong Country 3. Now, don't get me wrong, Donkey Kong Country 3 is a great game, but it's easily the weakest of the trilogy. Yeah, we're getting into the good stuff now. Number 27, March 2019. The standout game for this month is Fire Emblem, Shadow Dragon, and the Blade of Light. It's on the Japanese list, but it's there. Japan also got Year R Kung Fu, which is not bad, but not great either. America got Star Tropics, which I don't really have any strong feelings on. And then there's Kid Icarus, available on both lists. And look, I hate to be so negative, but Kid Icarus is not that great of a game. Now, don't get me wrong, the sequel, Kid Icarus Uprising on 3DS, is one of the best games of all time. But the original on NES, it leaves a lot to be desired. Still, due to the presence of Fire Emblem, this month has rightfully earned a B tier placing. Number 26, January 2019. This month, rather than just having one standout game, has two. Zelda 2 The Adventure of Link isn't my favorite Zelda game by any means, but it's acceptable. The other highlight is Joy Mech Fight, which is a very good game. And then we've also got a few miscellaneous things as well. Pretty good. Number 25, July 2020. The standout game this month is Donkey Kong Country. Though we're still in the part of the tier list where each game only has one good game, the quality of these games are getting better. Donkey Kong Country is one of the all-time greats. Number 24, March 2023. Metroid Fusion is very good. Kirby's Dream Land 2 is also quite excellent, and the other games aren't too shabby either. Yeah, I got no notes. This is the best month yet. Number 23, May 2023. Okay, so get your angry comments ready because I'm about to share an unpopular opinion. So for this month, we got 3 Game Boy Advance games, which are just remakes of SNES games that were already on Nintendo Classics anyway. And these remakes are infamous for heavily downgrading the audio of their original counterparts. With the first 2 of these, yeah, I totally agree. There's no reason to play the Game Boy Advance versions if the SNES versions are also an option. However, I will defend Yoshi's Island here. First of all, regarding the audio, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people seem to report it as. Yeah, it's a slight downgrade over the SNES version, but not extremely so. Secondly, they added 6 additional levels to the game. That alone makes this the definitive way to play Yoshi's Island to me. But more importantly, there's a really fun self imposed challenge that I like to do where I go for the minimum number of points possible. And this is actually only possible on the Game Boy Advance version due to them changing the way the timer works from the SNES version of the game. It's actually quite a lot of fun, and I recommend everyone try it. Here's a guide that I made if you're curious. Number 22, March 2022. Harvest Moon and F-Zero X? Yes, please. I don't even need to see anything more than that. Number 21, November 2022. This month gives us the first two Mario Party games. I know that a lot of people prefer Mario Kart, but for me personally, my favorite Mario spin-off series is Mario Party. With that said, Mario Party 1 and 2 are not the best. Mario Party 1 even physically injures you in the real world when you play it. That's how bad it is. It's practically an unforgivable sin. Mario Party 2 is usually seen as the best game in the series. Presentation-wise, I agree, it's exceptional. The characters even dress up in silly costumes in this version. That's adorable. But then you look at the actual gameplay. Mario Party 2 is fine, it works, but Mario Party 3 and Mario Party 4 are a lot better. Still, Mario Party 1 and 2 aren't too bad, and I would put this in A tier, but one thing that makes Mario Party 1 and Mario Party 2 terrible is how time consuming it is to unlock everything. If we had gotten some SP save files that let you start with everything unlocked, this would be in the A tier, but as is, it stays in B tier. Speaking of A tier, let's move on to that. A tier months, here we come. Number 20, February 2019. The highlight game for this month is Kirby's Adventure, and then we also get Super Mario Bros. 2, which isn't too shabby either, but not really a game that I absolutely adore or anything. As for Tsupari Uzumo, it's easily the worst game of this month. I imagine not too many people will argue with me on that one. Number 19, June 2024. So first up, we got 5 different Mega Man games, which is great, but they're the Game Boy games. I think everyone would have rather had the NES games or the Mega Man X games. We've also got 2 new Game Boy Advance games. The first is Metroid Zero Mission, which is a remake of an NES game that's already on Nintendo Classics. The second is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past and Four Swords, which is a remake of a SNES game that's already on Nintendo Classics. Though at least the Four Swords campaign is brand new, so that's something. And finally, we also got 2 adult-only games on Nintendo 64, Perfect Dark and Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Perfect Dark is the highlight game for this month, and on its own would probably put this month into B tier, but add on the extra stuff that we got this month as well, and it's an A tier month. Number 18, April 2019. So, I know how popular Punch-Out is, but for me, I found the game to be too basic. Not to mention the racist caricatures have not aged too well. But this month also has Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. For me, this is the standout game. It's one of the better Mario games, at least to me. Number 17, February 2025. I imagine I'm gonna get some hate for this, but yeah, I'm putting February 2025 as an A tier month. We only got one game, and that game was Wario Land 4. This game, in my opinion, is incredibly underrated. A lot of people see it as a basic 2D platformer with only 18 levels in it, which, okay, yes it is. Even if you go for all the collectibles, this doesn't take long to beat. But that's when you play on normal mode. If you then play on hard mode, you'll see the levels have drastically changed. And after beating the game on hard mode, you unlock super hard mode, changing the levels yet again. This basically triples the level count. Oh, and getting all the collectibles is now stupidly hard. Like, so much so that I'm amazed that it's a game released by Nintendo. And then after all of that, if you thought you were done, oh boy, try going for a gold crown rank on all levels. This will make you claw your hair out. Or if you really want to make your life miserable, try to go for the maximum possible score. Some people have done it, and I have no idea how they manage it, because that is far beyond my skill set. So yeah, the game seems simple at first glance, but there's a surprising amount of depth to all of this. It's one of my favorite games, and I have no problem putting an entire month in A tier for this one game alone. Number 16, January 2023. This month gives us GoldenEye 007 on the American list. The Japanese list gets literally nothing. But hey, now you can have the undisputed best multiplayer experience on the Nintendo 64 online for the first time. That's cool. Yeah, this game is a beloved fan favorite for a reason. I'm glad to have it on Nintendo Classics. Number 15, July 2024. For this month, we got a whopping 10 different NES games. On the Japanese list, we got Famicom Mukashiba na Shin o Nagashima, Gomoku Narabe Renju, and Mahjong. On the American list, we got Cobra Triangle, The Mystery of Atlantis, and Silver Jetman. And on both lists, we got Donkey Kong Jr. Math, Golf, Mock Rider, and Urban Champion. Well, that is quite a lot. In terms of quantity, it's not very much in terms of quality. The only real highlight here is Shin Onigashima, and even that game can get frustrating at times. I think this month would be C tier if it stopped here. But we also got the trilogy of Denatsu no Staffy games for the Game Boy Advance. Now, yes, it would have been nice if they also gave us the 4th and 5th games, but since those are on the DS, I get why they didn't. Still, the Denatsu no Staffy series, even if only half of it, is a good enough game series that I feel comfortable ranking this month highly. Number 14, February 2022. Okay, so you may be a little confused right now. We got 3, technically 4 games this month, and they're all games where you would be right to be confused about why I have them this high up. First up is an SP save file for Super Metroid. As you know by now, I hate SP save files for single player games, so this is worthless to me. Next up is Earthbound, along with its prequel, Earthbound Beginnings. Now, you may remember that I said I don't really like these games too much, and that is still indeed true. But I never said I hated it, I just said that I don't see why everyone else seems to think that's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Indeed, it's not bad, I just think it's kinda average. It's okay. Which, compared to most games, is pretty good. I would not call this shovelware or anything like that. But it's not really a highlight for me either. Again, I'm sorry to the Earthbound fandom. Believe me, I've tried to get into this, but I just don't see what you guys see in this. I really, really want to like it more than I do. The final game that we got this month is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. You really can't go wrong with a mainline Zelda game. Majora's Mask isn't the best mainline Zelda game, but it's also far from the worst. And I think that this, combined with the Earthbound stuff, brings this month overall into the A tier. It deserves to be here. Number 13, October 2023. Alright, once again, we can get the SP save file out of the way because I do not care about it. Now that that's done, let's take a look at what else we got. Devil World was never released in America, only Japan and Europe, so this is nice to allow Americans to finally experience that game. It's a pretty good game by NES standards. More interestingly, we got the Mysterious Murasame Castle, which was only ever released in Japan back in the day. It's one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love this one. And we got Mario Party 3, which is my personal favorite Mario Party game. If you want to argue otherwise, then you just have bad opinions. Oh, and we also got what is universally agreed upon to be the worst Castlevania game. Even the creator of this game has said that he hates how it came out. That's pretty bad. But it's not like it hurts having it here. Well, I would much rather have seen one of the NES or SNES Castlevania games here instead. The Game Boy one is still better than no Castlevania at all. So overall, October 2023 had a lot of good games, and this is only number 13 on the ranking. We've got even better stuff to come, so let's get to that. Number 12, September 2018. This was the first month of Nintendo Classics, and I'm going to be honest, they did not put their best foot forward. Yeah, there's 20 games, but quality is more important than quantity, and the best of the best, these are not. I mean, look at these. Donkey Kong is a very important game to gaming history, being the first NES game ever designed. But even if you've never played it before and are going in completely blind, you can finish the game with 100% completion in about 10 minutes. There's really not a lot of content here. And that's not really an isolated example. All of these games seem to suffer that problem of just not having much in them. With 3 notable exceptions. Super Mario Bros., Super Mario Bros. 3, and The Legend of Zelda. These 3 games alone propel this month all the way into A tier. The other 17 games may as well not even be here. Number 11, June 2022. We got some SP save files for Kirby games. I don't care at all. I mean, it's cool that you can play the arena in Kirby Superstar without having to unlock it, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. We also got some Genesis games. Once again, I don't care at all. This is a D tier month for me, so I have no idea how it got this high. Oh wait, I did miss one game. Let's see here. It's Pokemon Snap. Not only was this the first Pokemon game they added to Nintendo Classics, but it's also one of the better spin-off games. It's one of my all-time favorites. Number 10, September 2020. Let's start with the American list. We've got these 3 games, and of them, the best is easily Mario Super Picross. Yeah, it's a Japan-only game, but it really doesn't require you to read Japanese for anything other than menu navigation, so just memorize the menu and you'll be fine, even if you can't read Japanese. It is strange that it came out on Nintendo Classics in America before Japan, though. Oh well. Next, the Japanese list. We got a Fire Emblem game, so that's really cool. Mario and Fire Emblem are already very strong hitters, but we can keep going if we look at the games on both lists. We have 2 others. First of all, there's Super Mario All-Stars, which is a collection of mainline Mario games. Now, yes, these are games that are already on Nintendo Classics on NES, but this collection isn't just a collection of ports. They actually upgrade the graphics and the music into a full remake that more or less makes the original games obsolete. However, the absolute cream of the crop is the final game we got this month, Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest. This is the best game in the Donkey Kong Country trilogy, and one of the best games on the entire SNES console. This is easily the best month we've seen so far. Number 9, January 2022. Okay, so this one is almost certainly personal bias, but we got Banjo-Kazooie. This was a really, really good Nintendo 64 game back in the day. It basically takes what Super Mario 64 made and further optimizes it for the Nintendo 64 in a way that was not possible to do at launch. If you're a fan of Super Mario 64, this game is pretty much its unofficial sequel, and I love it. Getting this game was very surprising given that the game is owned by Microsoft and they are Nintendo's rival company, but I'm glad that I can now enjoy one of my favorite games again on modern hardware. Admittedly, I do wish that we got both Banjo-Kazooie games at once, but as is, it wasn't that long of a wait for the second one. And now we move on to the S tier months, starting with number 8, December 2019. So first of all, as per usual, we got our filler games that you're going to give up on after about 10 or 15 minutes. But then we have these 2 games. Let's start with Kirby Superstar. It's one of the best Kirby games of all time and one of the best SNES games of all time. Definitely very cool to have it here. It's pretty good. And as for the last game, it's Star Fox 2. If you don't know the history of this game was developed fairly late into the SNES's lifespan. So late, in fact, that by the time it was scheduled to be released, the Nintendo 64 was already out. And therein lies the problem. Nintendo was trying to market their new system, and releasing a big-name game for their old system would go against this, so they opted to withhold the game and not release it. Many years later, in 2017, Nintendo released the SNES Classic, a plug-and-play console that lets you play various old SNES games. And one of these games was Star Fox 2, released to the public for the first time. The thing is, very few people actually bought these plug-and-play consoles that Nintendo made when the Wii U was struggling. But you know what people did buy? The Nintendo Switch. So giving it an official release on the Switch through the Nintendo Classic service was the first time most people got to experience the game. So that's really cool that Nintendo got this to work, and it's a great game to boot. With Star Fox 2 and Kirby Superstar together, this month skyrockets all the way up to S tier. It deserves it. And that's the worst of the S tier months. We've still got plenty more to go. Number 7, April 2023. So this month was mostly just a bunch of Genesis games, and as I have explained, I don't really care too much about these. With that said, we did get one game for a Nintendo console, and that game is Pokemon Stadium. This is a great game. Why? Because it's a Pokemon game, and not just a spin off. You can actually get into real, actual Pokemon battles in this game. That alone makes it really good. This is one of my favorite months of Nintendo Classics because of it. So, yeah, it may seem silly to put this month in S tier for only one game, but I genuinely think that the Pokemon games are worthwhile enough to hit that point. Number 6, December 2021. This is another month that mostly focuses on the Genesis, so I don't really care. But the one Nintendo game that we got was Paper Mario, which, in my personal opinion, is my favorite Nintendo 64 game of all time. That may be an unpopular opinion, but that's the way I see it. Number 5, February 2023. So, this is the month that added Game Boy games to the service for the first time. Normally, when a new console gets added, that adds quite a lot of good stuff to get to that point. But I'll be honest, the Game Boy games at launch weren't exactly my favorites. There were 10 in total, and I have issues with all of them. Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare, only on the American list. This is a shovelware game that I couldn't care less about. Game & Watch Gallery 3. It's okay, but it's weird to have the third game in a series without the first two. Gargoyle's Quest, also something I don't care about. Kirby's Dream Land, it's kind of a weak game, and it's definitely the odd one out of the Kirby series. Most people consider Kirby's Adventure and Kirby's Dream Land 2 to be the first true Kirby games. The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX, this was already on the Switch in the form of a remake. So if you bought that remake, you wasted your money because now you can just play the game whenever you want on Nintendo Classics. Thanks for that. Metroid 2 Return of Samus, this is a watered down Game Boy attempt to make an NES game that you can play on the go, but with that NES game already being on Nintendo Classics, that seems kind of pointless. Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins, great game, but it's weird to only have the second game and not the first. Tetris? Well, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a Nintendo Switch Online account, you already have access to Tetris via the game Tetris 99, so this feels like a waste of a slot. Wario Land 3? It's neat, but again, why have it without the first two? And last week, we have Yakuman, only on the Japanese list. It's a fine game, but nothing too special. It really is saying something that this is the game that I like the best out of everything that the Game Boy launched with on Nintendo Classics. Luckily, we also got the Game Boy Advance, and these ones are really good. We got 6 games for it at launch. Kuru Kuru Kururin, The Legend of Zelda The Minish Cap, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3, and WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games. These are all absolutely amazing games. Well, okay, not Kuru Kuru Kururin. That one is an okay game, certainly better than any of the Game Boy games for this month, but not great. The rest, though, stellar lineup. Some people may say that Super Mario Advance 4 is a poor choice since it's a remake of a game that was already on Nintendo Classics, but the added extra levels in World E in this version of the game are honestly some of the best Mario levels ever. So I think they're wrong. Seriously, go check out these levels if you haven't before. They're amazing. Oh, and I should probably mention that WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games is unavailable in South Korea, but that doesn't really matter much. Like I said at the beginning, you can easily work around their region restrictions on the Switch. Number 4, October 2024. First of all, we got 2 F-Zero GBA games. That's pretty neat. Not a highlight or anything, but still pretty neat. I mean, I enjoy them every now and then, but there's really no reason to play them over F-Zero X most of the time. There's also some Nintendo 64 games on the American list, but I didn't care for either one of them. But then we have Banjo-Tooie. This completes the Banjo-Kazooie duology that really ought to have been completed from the beginning. I don't see why they were so spread out. Now, truth be told, I do prefer the original Banjo-Kazooie over Banjo-Tooie, but Banjo-Kazooie came on its own while Banjo-Tooie got some F-Zero games to come to Nintendo Classics with it. That propels it up higher than its predecessor, so this month gets to stand in S tier. Number 3, August 2023. Not only did we get another Pokemon Stadium game, but we also got Pokemon Trading Card Game. I am going to get a ton of hate for this, but Pokemon Trading Card Game is my all-time favorite Pokemon game. Yes, I like this more than the main series games. This is an absolutely amazing month. Oh right, we also got Excitebike 64, which is a game that I don't really like very much, but that's inconsequential. The Pokemon games are the real star of the show here, and they are great. Number 2, September 2019. They gave us an F-Zero game, and a Kirby game, and a Zelda game, and a Star Fox game, and a Mario Kart game, and a mainline Mario game, and a Yoshi game, and a Metroid game. And I would have been happy with just half of these. Oh, and we're still not done because they also gave us 13 more games on top of that. Yeah, this is one of the best ones we ever had. I don't think anyone would argue with me there. But this is only number 2. What's number 1? Well, you can use process of elimination to figure it out, but I ask that you please pretend to be surprised. Number 1, October 2021. This month gave us a total of 24 games, which is just insane. This has never happened before nor since. And yeah, most of these are Genesis games that I don't care about, but those that are Nintendo games, Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart, Star Fox, Sin and Punishment, and Yoshi's Story. Oh, and 3 other games that also exist. But wow, these are all classics for a reason, and the best part, between all of these options, this month is able to accommodate many different types of players, from those who prefer single player to those who prefer multiplayer, and from those who prefer casual games to those who prefer hardcore games. This month offered something for everyone, and at the end of the day, I think that's what makes Nintendo Classics a worthwhile investment. I don't really like playing games online. Games are my way of unplugging from the world and being on my own. I greatly prefer playing them offline over online. So I very rarely actually use my Nintendo Switch Online subscription for playing games online. Nintendo could honestly disable their servers for all of their Nintendo Switch games and I would probably be okay. And yet, despite that, I am glad that I'm paying $50 a year for my Nintendo Switch Online subscription solely because it comes with the Nintendo Classics games. Right now, between both Japan and America, there are a total of 331 games on the service, not including SP save files. And if you include everything that I've ever played on there, you can even bring that up to 332. Even if these were the worst games ever made, $50 a year for access to 332 games is an incredible deal. But the thing is, these aren't the worst games ever made. Quite the opposite, in fact. These games are truly some of the all-time greats. It's in the name, Nintendo Classics. I know that it's incredibly unlikely that this video will ever reach the eyes and ears of someone who is in charge of the service. They live in Japan, and I'm an unknown YouTube channel who has literally no business talking about this stuff. But if by some miracle, you, watching this, somehow, are in any way connected to making this service possible, thank you. It really means a lot that you put this out there for us. I look forward to everything else that will be put onto the service in the future for the Nintendo Switch 2 era. Hey, thanks for watching the video. You must have really enjoyed it if you made it all the way to the end. Here's the thing though, I'm not really a YouTuber, so I'm probably not going to be uploading another video for several years or decades, possibly never again. So if you're thinking about subscribing to see future uploads, I'm telling you right now, don't. There probably won't be any further uploads, and frankly, seeing this video or my sub count suddenly blow up isn't going to do anything other than make me feel pressured into making more content that I really don't want to make. So unlike most YouTubers, I am going to politely ask that you please not like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the bell, because I really don't want to make this into something that I have to do regularly. I really hate making videos, which is why it's only a once in a blue moon thing for me. I know a lot of people will think I'm joking, so let me be clear that this isn't a joke. It's a genuine request. Please don't subscribe to me. It genuinely will make me feel pressured and just contribute to my depression. So I ask that you don't do the typical YouTube things. Thanks.